most special part about playing here at UBS Arena for you?
Everything. I mean, all of it. I think it's a great place, great fans. Yeah.
Brock, I hope to see you soon. Thanks so much for your time. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Oh, nice.
Well, everybody, that would be Brock Nelson's last interview with the New York Rangers, or sorry, the New York Islanders. I mean, wow, I'm sorry, I was just getting a little bit, behind on this. But if you haven't heard the news and you're coming in for it right now, that the New York Islanders have acquired Callum Ritchie, a first-round pick in 2026 or 2027 because it's conditional. It's protected, conditional third-round pick in the 2028 draft, and Oliver Shillington for Brock Nelson and Will Dufour. Brock Nelson, we debated on this the other night, everybody, of whether or not he is a top 10 Islander of all time, and this isn't a great day for the Islanders. But it was sort of a move that they had to make. I'm going to get to your comments on it in a minute. But first, let's recap on something. Brock Nelson, 901 games for the New York Islanders, fourth in their franchise history. 295 goals, fifth in their franchise history. 574 points. That is good for eighth in their franchise history. And they had some pretty good players that played on those on that franchise for a long time. If you're tuning into it right now on All Things Islanders or even on Big Apple Hockey, we'll get to that right now. First off, thank you, New York Zero Kid. And yes, Anthony was actually kind of saying to me all along, he's like, hey, are you going to go live? The Rangers traded Riley Smith. The Rangers acquired Carson Soucy. I'm like, well, you know, when a big one happens, and this qualifies as a big one, everybody. We really, and okay, they just flipped Oliver Shillington for future considerations. Thank you very much, Chris T. First off, that is Kaylee. That is some good, very good determination with Ranger Central, who will be guests of ours tomorrow on the trade deadline stream. Hopefully, and if you guys have already seen the highlights of the last few years, we've had some great moments. 2022 wasn't the best at trade deadline time, but getting on that. But we want to get your thoughts on this move because it is unbelievable that Colorado. We kind of said this one in the Bar Talk segment that the Jets should target Brock Nelson. And why are my banners black? They should be blue. There we go. Getting a little bit bluier. It's one of those things that we kind of you looked around. There were multiple different places for him to go, but now you look at Brock Nelson going to the Colorado Avalanche, and he's gonna really. I mean, you might see them now flip Casey Middlestat, but maybe find some way to get at least a little bit more center depth from them because they've been talking about potentially moving Middlestat. Let's go to what the Colorado Avalanche look like. And now you got a guy defensively responsible for the Colorado Avalanche. First, let's go with what it means for them. It's also obvious that since they won the Stanley Cup, let's get that share screen on there. And here we go. By the way, everybody, once again, don't forget to use SeatGeek, promo code Big Apple Hockey. And yeah, there's a sad face on right here and a well-deserved one too. So let's get this right here. This is what Colorado looks like right now. And they've really missed Nazem Kadri since he left. There's definitely been that missing piece. You look for that next center that's going to get in there. Brock Nelson's going to fit them like a glove. And he's probably going to take a lot of the matchups and the tough matchups, him and Jack Drury. And now, right now, you look at the standings with Minnesota. They've been floundering as of late. Let's get those standings up. And it really signals the change. We're going to get more into Brock's legacy with the New York Islanders in a moment. and try to get a tribute up to him maybe tomorrow morning. Who knows? He might not be the only legend leaving New York, because Chris Kreider would be right behind him for the New York Rangers. And you're talking about two guys that have really played well. But again, let's stick with Brock, because Brock has really earned it. And you look at what the Colorado Avalanche have right here. They're at 74 points. They're only 5 points behind the Minnesota Wild. So they can potentially, or sorry, 2 points behind the Minnesota Wild. I looked at the LA number. They could really jump back in there. But Brock Nelson, who, I mean, right now they got him slated to go with Nichushkin and Jonathan Drouin. He could play both ways, and he could play both ways excellently. That really extends the center depth for the Colorado Avalanche right now. Can't say that enough. You're talking about a guy who, for the last few seasons, and we're going to get to his career stats in a minute, he has been a revelation since turning 29. He is when he first became a 30-goal scorer. This was a guy that really took to the Barry Trotz system. But even after Barry Trotz left, he was still just a monster for the New York Islanders. Philk has argued about him showing signs of decline. 20 goals this year, 23 assists, 43 points, 43 rules. But you also can't help but notice, like I said before, the year he turned 29, 18 goals, 15 assists in 56 games. Those are good numbers. Look at the next year. 37 goals, 22 assists when he turned 30, 36 in his 31 year, and then last year 34. That is good for 107 goals over the last 3 seasons. Not many players even can match those numbers that Brock Nelson was having. Let's pull up who he was up against when you just compare those numbers. We'll just go for the last 3 seasons and trying to be as fast as possible for everyone. Goals, obviously, Austin Matthews 169, Connor McDavid 140. Let's get that up there for you guys to look at. And right there we go. And then you have all the way down here, I mean, 21st in the league. He scored more goals than Sidney Crosby over the last few seasons, and Jake Gensel. So Colorado's getting one hell of a player, and you can't say enough about Brock and what he's done over the last 10 years. We're going to cover more of this trade tomorrow. First, I'm going to stay on for a little bit just because I'm going to get some of your comments. 292 you guys are watching right now, most of you guys on X. Make sure you're tuning in tomorrow. We might start at noon. We might even start even earlier. We're slated for noon. But Brock Nelson, we started with his interview, and just a quick recap of some of the great moves that have happened over the last few seasons. Everybody, just take a look at this.
The New York Islanders acquire Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac.
Whoa, hold on. Dreger is saying cop to the Rangers. So
get down to it, Anthony. Patrick Kane is a New York Ranger. The Rangers gave up a conditional 2024 second-round pick and a 2024 fourth-round pick.
If Capo
Oh, shit. Thomas Hurdle to Vegas.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Come on. You gotta be kidding.
Are you kidding me?
Are
you kidding me?
And that was just so nuts, just seeing that last year. I just want to give you guys a little bit of a taste as I'm trying to pull up more stats, because trying to get Callum Ritchie's numbers that are going back. I mean, look, there's a lot of moving parts to all this. And Callum Ritchie this season, just 7 games, goal, and that's all he's got. 7 games. Well, that's all he is right now. That's his entire NHL career. Hopefully, the Islanders could spend a little bit more on that. They got a first-round draft pick out of this, and it is protected, so that is part of that. Doing this all off the whim, guys. So pardon me on that one. Phil's reaction. Yeah, Phil's reaction again on that was just absolutely nuts. And I mean, my jaw dropped. I still could have believed that. Jeff's going to make some moves tomorrow. They better. They're the ones that are going to be under the spotlight, and you don't want to exactly stand pat, especially when you're watching a team that you could be matched up with in the playoffs, getting some of the moves, making some moves, and them getting a lot better. Mark Phil Anthony reaction to Gordon. Yeah, that'll never be topped. My reaction on that one when he got fired, I remember a friend of mine texting, and I looked down. I casually just grabbed my phone, just texted it real quick, and then it was oh my goodness. Yeah, Shillington to the Ducks. Yeah, we got that one, Kaylee. And yeah, hopefully this is a signal of Palmieri next. Palmieri, he should fetch at least a decent price. Callum Ritchie, I thought he looked pretty good from what I saw of him with Colorado. It was only 7 games. That's why I was shocked. I was like, he didn't play more than that. But I thought there was a lot more. As Chris T is saying, pretty good return for the Islanders, especially 2 firsts for a rental. Was it 2 firsts, or was it that it was protected? It was a first round pick. No, it was a first round pick this season. Next year, or 2027, because it's obviously protected, and a 3rd round pick that goes for 2028. So this really is an investment in the Islanders' future. And look, we've been vocal about this all the time about us saying the Islanders need to get younger, faster. And in this case, they definitely did. Right now, 320.80, you guys are watching. And look, that, Pam and Joe, you guys 100% right about that one. Look, this is a dark day. Abe, unfortunately, I think Anthony is already asleep. So we're going to get further on this tomorrow. But you should check out the show that we were talking about yesterday, where in the Bar Talk segment, the first topic was Brock Nelson is a top 10 New York Islander of all time. And we all agreed. I'd even put him ahead of some guys like maybe even Pierre Turgeon. Turgeon was the bigger star, but if you talk about longevity, Brock Nelson was right there. And what a money playoff player. You're talking about a guy that in their big playoff runs, let's see, Brock Nelson, a goal and 4 assists. That was the only, that was the 2015 and 2016 season. That was when they beat the Florida Panthers. But you look at the 22 game run, 9 goals, 9 assists, 18 points. 4 goals in that previous run where they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes. But then 7 goals, 5 assists, 12 points. And this was a guy that was always taking on the top team's opposition. And of course, about the B line, Villiers, Brock, and Bailey. And he was incredible in every one of those series. He was a guy that they trusted with a lot of ice time, 337 minutes that he logged in the 2021 run, and 425 minutes that he logged. He was averaging 19 minutes a game the first time they went to the conference finals, 17:47 because they were a little bit deeper. But he was, and again, I can't say enough about Brock Nelson. Let's get to some of your comments. Christy was saying, no. Oh, well, Richie was a first rounder. Okay, well, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Abe and Joe, I'm going to get back to your comment in a minute, and same thing for Mike Walsh as well. Would have been awesome if he could have finished his career with the New York Islanders. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the way everything goes in sports now. So few people are able to write their own ending. John Elway, Jerome Bettis, Dave Andrechuk in hockey was one of them. But yeah, Rum Ranch really rocks. Well, we're going to see about that soon enough. I don't know if the Islanders are going to see him this season. All right. Iceman saying that the Rangers are closing in on JJ Paterka. Let me see about that. I did not. I rushed to get on, so I did not see that. Oh, do I see him? Because I thought you were still talking about Shellington. Lou is always about hockey trades, so I think that's something that he's going to try to get a player here instead of getting a prospect. But I mean, Lou at his age, he's not a fan of rebuilds. So, well, bar down. One reason why you're right about that, the Avs won that trade because you got the better player right now. See about him a little bit later. Got to check it right now. Check the Twitter sphere, see whether or not there's and Ethan on Instagram, huge Islander fan, so bittersweet about Brock. Yeah, you really saw it in that post-game interview last night or 2 nights ago, where you really saw his heart was breaking. He didn't want to leave. Although the chances of getting him on the show now have gone up instrumental. I told Anthony a while back, I knew somebody that played in a fantasy football league with him. I have his phone number. I could always trade and get him. But checking in on some of the other stuff. Kim, who's the Honors Lipstick Girl, has a great post on him. It's not goodbye. It's until the next time. And Brock Nelson just let me share that post with you guys real quick. I get the link on it. And I mean, the thing kind of with the Islanders for a long time is that they were used to be shipping out their players. Here's that post, by the way. But the Islanders used to have to ship out players before it was. I mean, they really got a chance to really have them for a long time. Brock Nelson's been a New York Islander for 12 years. And this is something that was really, it's hard. I mean, I know Josh Bailey played more games than him. I know he had more seasons. Brock Nelson was the New York Islanders, especially the last few seasons. So, John D. Lee, burning the midnight oil. Matt Talks Rangers. He'll be one of the guests tomorrow. Was saying right here that, nothing's happened on Paterka. So that's good news for it. But let's get back to Giacinto. Giacinto. Okay. Sorry. I hope I got that right the second time. But you saying, as fan here, don't worry, we'll take care of him. Devon will treat him right. Well, you guys won the Devon Taves trade a long time ago. And Anthony would be happy. I finally didn't call him Devin Taves. But this is huge, especially for the Avs, because you got a good two-way center. He can also play the bumper. He's going to be a more restrained version of Nazem Kadri, you'd say. I know the ceiling was a little bit higher on Nazem Kadri, but we'll get to that on a little bit. So Avs, keep on saying what you got right here. My right nut was saying, "Hey Mark, glad to see you up here so late. Love the dedication." Yeah, well, I was encouraged by my wife to get up and go do this, but Jay, will Chris Kreider be dealt today? If you look at our Instagram stories or on TikTok, we did some pick'ems. I did say I think Chris Kreider gets moved tonight. All right, so Avs fans, what you think about the trade? Come on in here, and guys, in case if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you're subscribed to us. We do a lot of great hockey coverage. You know, there's a lot of good channels out there. We're a good one to have in your rotation. So let's get back to this and some of those others. So still no word so far on no word so far still on the JJ Peterka situation, Arthur Stable had a lot of different moving pieces. Again, as fans, what do you guys think? Are you guys pumped about this? I'll bring back the daily face-off button for you right now. And you guys could take a look at your lineup, because that lineup looks a whole lot better than it did a mere 5 months ago. At the beginning of the season, that lineup was incredibly thin. It wasn't even paper thin. But you look at this now, boom. Now you got Middlestat as your third line center. You can actually hold on to him. Don't have to deal him. And who knows? Who knows what's ever going to happen right there? But let's keep going. Abe was asking just now, what's your gut prediction? What Carolina does with Mikko Rantanen? Mikko Rantanen is one hell of a player, especially some of these Avs fans in the chat would know. And I do have to tell you that I'm still shocked he was traded in the first place, although Marty Necas is a hell of a replacement for him. But I think if you're Carolina, you got to run this to the end. You got to absolutely run it to the end with Mikko Rantanen, because you're not going to get value. And I just want you to just say the words. I traded Mikko Rantanen, 10 games after I got him. You gotta get out there, and he's gonna test the market. I just think he's gonna test the market. He has to. He wants that substantial raise. He's got his idea of what teams to go after. But and as Vay's saying right here, this is insane. Yes, it is absolutely nuts. Sorry about me being a little bit more subdued on this one, guys. I'm trying not to wake up everybody in the house right now. Yeah, I do think he'll slide in right on that second line. And him and Nichushkin, who's a very much he's very much a great two-way player too. I wish I had my other associates to help out with this one, guys. But I think he'll slide right on that second line. Will he be extended by the Avs? That is a great question too, because I think he'll test the market as well. Because once a player gets traded, especially if they're a pending free agent, they're so close to being if they're so close to being a free agent, why not just go right to market on that? All right, let's get back right over here. Jay, I'm going to hold on to that one for a second. Talk around Denver, Colorado. Carlo is still on the Avs radar. This Brendan Carlo, I'm assuming. And I love the trade. We overpaid a little bit, but we had to outbid 3 or 4 teams. Yes, you did. And there is definitely a lot of teams that were interested in Nelson. Obviously, the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, the Winnipeg Jets, whom we thought would be the better team for him to go to, because that would have been something that would put them potentially over the top. Now Winnipeg has got to turn around and look for the next center to deal with on that. I have to go and find the trade bait board and see what would be the next center. All right. So the Ancient Andreas podcast, that fan here, it's a steep price, but we are in the window. Now we can't wait for Richie to develop. We got to go. And Brock offers great depth and underrated defense. Yes. And also, he's sort of got a lot of chutzpah, if you will. He's a great, tenacious player. You wouldn't know it by looking at him, but actually, let me answer this one. Jay Lewis is saying, do the Rangers make a surprise trade? Brady Tkachuk or someone like that? Maybe there's a surprise. It's not going to be Brady Tkachuk. I highly doubt Brady Tkachuk is going to be dealt right now. We have 410 of you guys watching right now. Make sure you're tuned into us. Tomorrow we have our trade deadline special. And it's going to be, like I said before, it's going to be at about 12 o'clock, but we might go on sooner, guys. This is an incredible, this is just an incredible find on that. Let's get a ticker going right here. Brock Nelson to the Avs. Guys, keep going. What do you think about this trade? I have to tell you, I think this is a huge move for the Avs. I did not see the Avs having him on the radar. It makes sense. It makes sense. As Matt's saying right here. Well, actually, let's go with this one first. I think the Islanders and the Avs won this trade. Good for Lou. Finally deciding to sell. Yes, that's what we were all afraid of. Anybody that's covering the team, fans of the team, everybody else, that Lou is just going to stick it out and move on. Now, because the one concern that you had to have, Brock is right now, he's 33 years old. He'll be 34 when the new season started. If he had a 3-year deal that takes him to 37, he wanted a longer term deal, and he still is going to want a longer term deal, even though he has really started his peak at the age of 30, which is still insane. Father Time is unbeaten. You thank him for his time. Guys, give him a standing ovation when he comes back to UBS next season, because he'll be very happy. And, this isn't the John Tavares thing. I said this before. Brock Nelson definitely wanted to stay, and you saw that, and you saw the tears in his eyes. Avs center core down the middle looks really nice as well, and I agree with you on that one. Will Dufour is sort of somebody that's a little bit under the radar in this trade. He was sort of kind of starting to make a buzz, but really hasn't been able to crack that lineup at all. So we'll see if the Avs can get more out of him. Matt Talks Rangers is predicting that Mika Rantanen gets dealt to the Panthers tomorrow. Thinks Verhaeghe and Bennett goes back to Carolina. It would have to be Verhaeghe, I think, because Verhaeghe is the one that's got I believe he's got the new contract kicking in. Let's go to cap wages and make sure on that one. Florida Panthers. And yes, Carter Verhaeghe's got a $7 million contract getting in. Look, the Carolina Hurricanes, they've got egg on their face so far with this trade. And right now in Colorado, you guys got to be loving Marty Necas right now, who has been absolutely on fire with the Avs. He's got 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 games. That's a point per game. And really kind of showing what he could do. We said 2 weeks ago that we think they'll extend him this offseason. We originally said July 1st, but it's probably going to be more in this offseason. Christy is saying when you have McCarr and McKinnon, you have to burn those first and go for the cup every single year. Well, after all, look at what Julian Breezeball said today. It's like, I'd rather have players in my lineup than draft picks. Which is true, because Steve Yzerman did all the heavy lifting in order to get you those draft picks. All right. Giacinto is saying right here, Mika said as much. He was walking to free agency. The Canes thought they could sign him. The Avs knew he wanted 14 or up, and now he's so close, he's not going to waste that opportunity. Yes, that's going to be happening with him, because he's definitely going to go. Now, look. He was completely blindsided when the Avs traded him. He said that his agent never got a call. So it's interesting to see his reaction. I always go back to the quote of Phil Esposito. First time that he ever learned he was traded, it was bigger shock than both parents dying. And the story goes, Don Cherry and Bobby Orr walked into his hotel room and said, "You're traded." And he just fell to the edge of the couch, to the bed, and just sat there quietly. He still doesn't say no. He doesn't know how long. And then he just looks at Don Cherry and just says, "If you tell me it's New York, I'm jumping out the window." Don Cherry turns and says, "Bobby, open up the window." All right. So we got 419 of you guys watching right now. Thank you very much. 57 of you on YouTube right now. Ooh, just in time to announce the JJ Peterka deal. Let's see whether or not there is any more headway made on that one. Since the Islanders last won the Cup, Brock Nelson's time as Islander has come to an end. He was exactly who you'd want to represent an organization and will be missed. Exactly. I think he was the quintessential New York Islander, especially after John Tavares left. I know Tavares might still have a name that is hard to listen in your ears, but Tavares was great for the New York Islanders, especially when he was here. But it is it's something that he represented the New York Islanders so well. Okay, hearing different rumors as well that also in on the Flyers is the Anaheim Ducks. JJ Peterka, Henry Jokiharju, as well as Trevor Zegras have all been kind of thrown around in those. Well, Trevor Zegras is going to be thrown around pretty much no matter what anyway. And Brock Nelson gets a thank you from the New York Islanders right there. Let's get back to some of your comments real quick, guys. All right, credit to LA. See, that's the only problem, John. I have not been able to figure out which is the team that Chris Kreider would go to. I think the Rangers have to do it. I think they absolutely have to do it. There's so much money committed to Alexei Lafreniere and Igor Shesterkin next year, and even Will Borgen in a way. And I know everybody's saying the cap's going up, then other guys are coming off. Chris Kreider's in the decline, guys. This is almost like Adam Graves in the year, I want to say it was 2000, where Adam Graves really kind of dropped off. Would be cool to see former New York, New Jersey players win a cup. Lindgren, Blackwood, and now Brock. It would be cool. You know what, guys? Put in the comments who's a guy that you were just like, that guy won a cup. For me, at first, I would say it was Michael Roosevelt, watching him win a cup with the Chicago Blackhawks. But then when I heard Michael Del Zotto winning a cup with the St. Louis Blues, I went, really? Wicked, I did have to post this quick, but let me see if you corrected me on this. Mark, reading from the conditions on the first, it does seem likely that to you that the pick is going to be in 2027, not in 2026. I have to see what those conditions are. If you could post that for me, that would be great. Bundy right now is saying, let's say the Rangers trade for Peterka. What would the return be? Schneider. It would at least be, they're trying to go for starters. There's words I'm hearing they're looking for right defensemen, but they would probably want Matthew Schneider, and they would want another young forward. I would consider Brennan Ottman. However, the guys I wouldn't touch, Brett Berard, you're going to need a Brett Berard, and Will Cuylle, obviously. Absolutely not. Per Elliot Friedman, the Stars are in talks for Rantanen. That's going to be obvious. And as a matter of fact, Rantanen is the prediction that Anthony had of him going to Dallas. It just makes too much sense. Although, of course, also hearing talks are intensifying. But okay, well, yeah, that's it. Giacinto. I keep forgetting the N. I'm sorry. Giacinto. Thank you very much. Sorry again. I'm so afraid the Buffalo Sabres GM Kevin Adams. I'm sorry. Can't be trusted. I believe that we will set the team back another 5 years. Yeah. It's so funny because it seemed like he was starting to make all the right moves as little as 2 years ago. They were just on the cusp of getting there. But there's like a mentality in this organization that once they're almost mathematically eliminated, then they're the best team in hockey. Like, especially if you look at them over their last 10, which is because I know they came out hot against the New York Rangers. The Buffalo Sabres, well, 4-5-1. Well, that was kind of like 9-1 for them, I guess. It's been a bad season at Buffalo. Jay is saying if LA goes to the Kings, bring back Alex Laferriere back home to New York. Let's see about that. Brett Howden winning in Vegas. Okay, so Brett Howden would be yours. How about that, Christy? Let's see if you guys got any more players that you couldn't stand seeing winning a Stanley Cup. No, not Matthew Schneider. I know he didn't say Matthew Schneider. Anthony thinks Lafreniere would have been in it for Peterka. Well, he thinks that because it's pretty much a given. I think you would want to you'd want to stay away from Lafreniere having to go, but that's if I'm Kevin Adams, if I'm going to send Peterka there, I'm going to need back something else. Let's get those stats on Alexei Lafreniere right now, who has been stealing money from the New York Rangers over the last few months, ever since he signed that extension. And let's compare his numbers with JJ Peterka. Lafreniere's got him in a bunch of things, but he's also played a number of games more. He's played 360 games as far as opposed to Peterka, who is 141 games less than him. And he's only got him by about 40 goals and 23 assists, 21 assists. So, no. Seeing Rantanen into Dallas. Let's see whether or not that is confirmed. All right, I'm seeing talks and testifying. Guys, I might be getting a guest coming on right now. Because apparently the Rantanen trade is done. So that is two trades. That is two trades literally in like the last few minutes. See, I'm still seeing talks intensifying. I'm not seeing it confirmed yet. But Rantanen to Dallas. Oh, that would be a big one. That would definitely be a big one. All right, let's get more of your comments, guys, as I wait for the guests to show up. Yeah, Peterka. Yeah. Wait, did I actually say Matthew Schneider? I meant Braden. Oh boy, guys, it's late. It is very late. Sorry. And if the Rangers can unload that contract, I would do that in a heartbeat. Brant Clark would be a good addition to get back. Because just in case, Louis, if you know this, there's two stances I have. One, I wouldn't want to trade a person that you signed to do an extension before the extension kicks in. I just think it's bad business. And the other thing also is, I don't see anybody that's going to be a taker for Igor. But we have a guest with me right now. As Evan from Ranger Central comes in. Evan, how are we doing?
Just crazy. It's just wild. I just knew there was no in between. It's like everything was gonna happen late at night or everything was gonna happen early tomorrow morning. There was just no in between with this, but I'm exhausted from streaming all day. But how are you doing, Mark?
Good, and waiting for tomorrow to get started as well, because I was looking forward to getting a nice early rest, and now I have to do a video tribute to Brock Nelson, and as well as getting all these trades in there. We got to get a trade tracker going. So first things first, Evan, what do you think about the Brock Nelson deal?
I think this was a really good deal for both sides. I think the Islanders did the right thing by selling off Brock Nelson, which I think you, me, Phil, all were in agreement there that they had to sell off Brock Nelson. Like they could not let him walk for nothing there. And good on Lou to acknowledge that he needed to sell off a guy like Brock Nelson, who's a pending UFA. And now that means Paul Mary should be on the table tomorrow, too. And now they get futures, and they could either use that first round pick that they acquired to help them get better for next season if they want to do a retool on the fly, or they could use that first round pick to get a really good prospect in a loaded draft class potentially in 2026. And then for Colorado's standpoint, it was a bit of an overpay, but you do what you got to do to try and win. You got to do what you got to do to win. So, yeah, I like the steal for both sides. They got deep down the middle now with McKinnon, Nelson, and Middlestat as their 1, 2, 3 down the middle. So I think they did really well here.
Yeah, because there was all the rumors of Middlestat possibly going. And now you look at that lineup, that looks like a longer lineup that's going to give somebody fits in the playoffs. By the way, just to mention this real quick, and Jalen Brunson hurt. Ugh. So, Chris Drury, you better figure out how to get the New York Rangers to get far. Otherwise, Jim Dolan will absolutely not like that. All right, Matt, I'll go send you an invite too. We'll get you in here. But okay, so Mika Rantanen to Dallas. Is this official yet?
It's getting close. Apparently, Elliot Friedman said that it's the talks were intensifying, and I think Pagnotta said that it's. I think Pagnotta said it's close. I forgot who else said it was. Let me see if I can find it, but apparently it could happen. It's either going to happen sometime tonight or it's going to happen early tomorrow morning. So
if it could happen tonight at the right time, just please just get it done.
Seriously, yeah, I was trying to go to bed so I could start early tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta work at 4 a.m. tomorrow, till 4 a.m. tomorrow. Beyond that, I won't have time with my wife. Let's check Instagram, see what else they have. No other comments right now, but this is such a big moment that has happened for the New York Islanders. You can hear me clearly, Evan, right? I'm not.
Yeah, you're good.
We actually got 1,300 that are watching right now. That are mostly from X. So isn't that nice? Could you see Brock Nelson coming back with the Islanders? Short answer, yes. Long answer, no, because it's going to be those type of reunions don't happen that often. Where the Aroldis Chapman or the Doug Waite or the Keith Kachuk as they've been. So we're going to see whether or not that could happen. I have a feeling he goes home to Minnesota. Now it's his time. And somebody is going to offer him 4 to 5 years. You just know it. What do you think, F?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's going to be a team in free agency because, there was that report that apparently they offered a 3-year deal for 5.7 or whatever. There's going to be a team that overpays on July 1st. That always happens, and it's not going to be an exception with Nelson, who's going to be one of the top centers on the market come July 1st. So could it happen? Sure. Maybe if he really liked being an Islander, but now that he's going to be away, maybe he's going to get a different feel being with another organization, and maybe even he stays in Colorado because Colorado has needed help down the middle, and then maybe Middlestad's the guy that goes out.
So, by the way, guys, did I really say Matthew Schneider?
You did, yeah.
Oh boy. Oh my God. I didn't say that. All right, there's the gift, guys.
Get the gift.
And again, good to have you guys on 13 hours before I thought you were going to come on.
Oh, we were doing freaking a bunch of hours before this too, so
it's been ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh goodness, it is
our whole day has basically just been streaming.
Well, Anthony kept on saying to me, he's like, "Are you gonna go on? You gonna go on?" I'm like, "No, not for Carson Soucy."
Yeah,
this is not it. Matt, start with the Brock Nelson thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought for both sides, like I mentioned when I put it in the chat earlier, I thought for both sides the deal makes sense. And like I was saying, good on Lou for finally realizing that it's time to sell and move on from Brock Nelson. Obviously, I think for both sides, for both Islander fans and for Brock Nelson, I think you could tell that he wanted to stay here. He wanted to sign a long-term extension, but he also has to do what's best for him. And like you said, he's a late bloomer. The Islanders have severely underpaid him over these last couple of years, and he wants to take care of himself. He wants to take care of his family. So it's his right to go out there and want a bigger time contract than what the Islanders were offering. And I mean, look, a 3-year deal. Nelson, like you were saying, ideally probably wants a 4 or 5-year deal. And again, like you said, he's 33 years old. Father time eventually does catch up to you. And, do you want, and like I was saying, the Islanders already do have a bunch of, long-term bad contracts. You mentioned with Engvall, Mayfield, guys like that, and I was saying, like, while Brock Nelson is good right now, or productive right now, do you want to hamstring yourself to another long-term deal when ideally this roster for the Islanders is on the older side and really not anywhere near a cup right now? So I think for Lou, it was the right decision to make. I thought he got a really good return in terms of, got the first round pick, got Callum Ritchie, got a third round pick. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to also see what he does for Cal Palmieri. And then for Colorado side, listen, Colorado for me is in the same place kind of where Tampa was, where, they're a couple years off winning a cup. They were still a few pieces away, and they went out there, they went aggressive like we saw with Tampa yesterday or 2 days ago. They went out, they got Yanni Gord, they got Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Colorado does the same thing. Went out, got aggressive, added Brock Nelson to already a powerful offensive team, and they just upgraded their center core by a lot because Mikko Rantanen, Casey Middlestead, and Brock Nelson's a really good 1-2-3 down the middle.
A tremendous 1-2-3. And it's, again, I actually think he's going to be, and you heard me say this before, guys, that I think he's going to be that piece that's been lacking in Colorado since Nazem Kadri went up to Canada. But of course, that had to happen because obviously you had to get extensions out for Makar and for Nate McKinnon and pay them. Looking at this comment right here from Giacinto, that it's going to cost Dallas some of the top young players to go get Rantanen. One name that was thrown out there was Wyatt Johnson. There's no way he's going, so we know that.
No.
However, do you think it would be a Maverick Bork or would it be a Logan Stankoven?
It could be. It could be Wyatt Johnson. It really could be. And the only reason I say that is because it really depends on what Dallas is doing. Like if they have the intention of extending Rantanen, I think they would maybe give up Wyatt Johnston, but I don't know how they get this deal done without giving him up. I mean, maybe Stankoven or Bork helps, but that, I don't know if it's just hard to say that that's enough after what Carolina gave up to go and get Rantanen in the first place to justify. I don't know how you sell to your fan base. All right, we got rid of Marty Necas and futures, and then got Rantanen for literally just a few games and then turned it into Maverick Bork or Logan Stankoven. Could it be? Maybe, because NHL GMs this happens all the time that, guys go for less than we think. But I feel like Wyatt Johnson could be in this deal because if they don't have to re-sign him, they're going to have cap space there. And then Jamie Benn's coming off the books after this year. Matt Duchene, Dadonov, all these guys coming off the book. So they'd have the cap space to do it if they moved Wyatt Johnson. But if they have no intention of extending Rantanen, then it makes no sense to move him. And then at that point, it would be an overpay. But I just can't see Carolina getting him for a significantly lesser package than what they gave up to get him. I would just be stunned by that.
I think they're going to be forced to get whatever package they could just take right now because he's definitely going to play agency. Matt, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be costing them one of those two guys?
I mean, look, it very well could, but you know what? If I'm looking at this from Dallas's perspective, because really Carolina doesn't have a lot of leverage right now because as it sounds right now, Mikko Rantanen has no intentions of staying in Carolina or at least signing an extension. So it's either, you keep him and you make a run and try to win a cup. And right now, I don't think they're good enough to win a cup. So you could either pivot and try to get something. But then looking from Dallas's point of view, I think Dallas is in a desperate situation too, because they've come up short year after year. And you got to think for Jim Nill, for Pete DeBoer, they have to win. They have to bring a cup home to Dallas because they came up short in 2020 in the cup final. They lost to a better Tampa Bay Lightning team, fine. But 2023, they get back to the conference final. They lose to Vegas. And then last year, they were probably roster-wise, in terms of roster construction, probably the better team to Edmonton. I think most people probably expected Dallas to win that series, and they lost in the conference final again. So I think for Dallas, I think it might be one of those where they're just going to be they're going to be forced into making this trade, and maybe they have to give up Wyatt Johnson. Listen, at that point, I like Wyatt Johnson. He's a very good player, but if you're bringing in a guy like Mikko Rantanen and he severely increases your chances of winning a cup, then you kind of look at it and say, if we do bring a cup, then it's kind of worth it in the end, isn't it?
It is, because you're reminded of, say, for instance, I'll use the New York Rangers for an example. When they traded Tony Amonte, they got back Brian Noonan Stefan Matteau, and you look at what their contributions were in the Stanley Cup Finals. Brian Noonan, I believe, was third on the team in scoring, if not fourth. He was one of the assists on the Stanley Cup winning goal by Mark Messier. And of course, Matteau, the 2 overtime winners. If you got to pay the price, you got to pay the price. You don't want to sit there, as Evan has pointed out several times, and gone, we could have traded Capo Caco and gotten Jake Gensel.
Even I was just going to bring up, because I read this quote earlier today from Julien Brisebois, GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he was talking about the trade of acquiring Gord and Bjorkstrand, and he was saying, listen, like, the picks are nice, and those young guys who we could draft and develop, they could help down the line, but right now Bjorkstrand and Gord is going to help us more to win a cup now. And you know what? I'd rather say that we went in and we tried our best to win, and we left it all out there, instead of going out there and saying a year later, we really didn't do all we could. We could have added a couple more pieces, but we decided to be more conservative, and I think that's the point. And again, that's coming from a GM in Brisebois, who's already won 2 cups and has retooled this roster already. So it's just showing that he's hungry, and he thinks and he believes in this roster that this Lightning team could go and win again. And again, it was one of the reasons why me and like Evan and other fans were mad that they didn't go out there, the Rangers, and they didn't go get Jake Gensel last year, because again, that was their chance to go get him, and they didn't get him, and ultimately they came up short.
I think I get a lot of comments here, guys, about guys saying that the conference playoffs are going to be insane. Really, just that Central Division is going to be insane. And if you want to make sure you have the best record in that conference, because I do think I've been thinking that Minnesota is going to drop to the first wild card anyway. God help you when they get Kaprizov back, and the Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers, they better really improve and quick, and they still going to have a tough task, because the LA Kings are going to be just as good. I still think the East is going to be a tougher draw, especially if the Rangers get hot. You don't want to be facing them in the playoffs.
The other thing that I want to go back to, just to go back to the Wyatt Johnson thing for a minute, and the only reason I think that maybe he could be on the table in this deal is because of the fact that Matt and we were talking about earlier that Verhaeghe might have to go the other way if Florida was to trade for him. I look at Wyatt Johnson, younger player, but I look at him and say that's probably, a fair comparable going the other way versus, again, Carter Verhaeghe or even a Sam Bennett, who we were talking about going the other way. I don't know who that could be for Dallas, because there's just such a big difference between Johnston and then Bork and Stankoven, where it's like, I just feel like Carolina might be able to get one of those guys, just because this is probably the highest sought after trade target, even though they don't have as much leverage. But if there's somewhat of a bidding war between, Florida, Dallas, and whoever else, it could lead them to getting a better player than we think.
By the way, my apologies, guys. I actually thought Wyatt Johnson was already re-signed. I could have sworn I saw that earlier in the year. Maybe just slipped my mind. He is an RFA.
Yeah, he's an RFA at the end. So Carolina would get to give whatever extension if they did acquire him. And I mean, I'm seeing people in the chat say Jason Robertson, which maybe, but I don't know if I see that entirely. Again, that I feel like I don't know who Dallas would rather give up. I mean, they probably ideally wouldn't want to give up either, but if it was between any of their other guys, I think they'd ideally maybe give up Hintz before those guys, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know what could go the other way. I thought Florida was such a lock to get him that I'm kind of just stunned by this.
Yeah, same. I thought it was the perfect move for Florida, to be honest. And I've said it, on our previous streams, that for me, like, if Florida got Mikko Rantanen, they would have been easily my pick to go back to back to win another Stanley Cup, because at that point I'm like, cool, like, you trade away, like, let's say for me, like, I think the guy that would go the other way for Florida's sake was Carter Verhaeghe, because he's already locked up. And you could say Sam Bennett could go the other way, but I think for Florida, I think they would rather have that extra center depth down the middle to go on another deep playoff run. And listen, I get it. Carter Verhaeghe's come up, clutch in multiple playoff series. He scored some big goals in Florida's 2 runs to the finals in 23 and 24. But if you bring in Mikko Rantanen again, he doesn't have to be the guy on that offense, and you place him on that first line next to his fellow countryman and Alexander Barkov. Even if you want, you could put Sam Reinhart on the right, or when Matthew Tkachuk ultimately comes back, you could create a first line super line of Rantanen, Barkov, and Tkachuk, and that'd be one hell of a line to watch in the playoffs. But I mean, yeah, if Dallas comes in and gets them, it certainly would be interesting. The only thing I would say though for Dallas is, I still think they got to improve that D-core, because I know Heiskanen's out, but even when he comes back, you're going to have guys like Ceci and Dumba on that D-core and Lyubushkin. I don't think that's strong enough. I think they need another defenseman.
Bringing up Dallas's lineup right now for you guys. But yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. The other thing I kind of can't help but say, guys, I know it's a little bit of a hot take, but Pete DeBoer's got a shelf life. You got to cash in now while you still can, because he's definitely, usually when you get into years either 4 or 5, because he did last 4 good years with San Jose, he ends up just losing his team. You look at this, you got Harley, Lyubushkin, Lindell, CC, Matt. I mean, Matt, you got to get Matt Dumbo off. He hasn't been that great this year.
Yeah. And CC on your second pair is just not it's just not good enough. I mean, we said it during the offseason too, Matt, how it's just like you look at their top 3 defensemen in Harley, Heiskanen, and Lindell, and you're like, that's great. And then you look at the other half and
3 and
because they had like Brendan Smith playing a lot of games for them, and then Niels Lundqvist. So
I just want to correct that for the guys. It's heating up, guys. Technically,
buzzword of the day, heating up.
Yeah, because you don't want to. I don't want people thinking, "Oh, wait, this is real." No, well, we're waiting on it. Yeah, Neil Smith hated the Amante deal. Do you guys remember when we had Neil Smith on? What he said was the one trade he regrets the most? That was Matthias Nordstrom and Ian LaPerriere going to LA.
Yeah, I was actually talking to my dad about that trade too a couple of days ago, and he was saying, yeah, that trade that didn't work out at all for the Rangers.
No. Yari Curry was gone by the end of the year. Marty McSwirly was too, and Shane Churla. And in the meantime, LA had their captain that was in that trade, that future captain. So, all right, the trade is not official. We're still trying to get that. Sorry about that, Noah. Didn't want to get your hopes up or down. But also, I know there's a lot of slaps at Chris Drury for this. There's no way Chris Drury can get him from Carolina.
No,
yeah, go Evan.
I was just gonna say that, like, even if the Rangers were in on Rantanen, I just don't see a world where he re-signs there. Like, it just seems like he prefers to be somewhere else. If he wanted to be in New York, I feel like the Rangers would have been involved, because you'd be dumb not to at that point if he wants to be there, and you could get an elite talent, but we haven't heard anything to where he'd want to be here, so I can't blame them, number one. Number two, they're also financially not in a spot where they could get him, because you still have to move Panarin probably, and Zibanejad's here, Kreider's here. They'd have to move 1 or 2 of those contracts, and it's like, if you acquire him, then you're painting yourself into a corner where you don't have leverage as much in moving a guy like Panarin, especially where you could get a good return for him. Now, all of a sudden, the team's going to know, all right, you're moving him because you want to re-sign Rantanen, and you lose leverage there.
Twitter's got a lot of good stuff right now. Mikko Rantanen's run with Carolina was Aaron Rodgers carrying out the flag for the Jets.
No, that was the JJ Peterka hype for the if it doesn't go through. But no, I think just going back to that point with Rantanen and the Rangers, for me, like we're from where the Rangers are right now, it wouldn't make any sense to trade for Rantanen. Now, if this was last year and the Rangers were in the same position where, they're one of the top teams in the league, they're on pace to win the President's Trophy, and they're that one missing piece away, then yeah, I would absolutely say, yeah, go all out and trade for Mikko Rantanen. But as of for right now, where the Rangers are, like, even if they acquire Mikko Rantanen, like, for me, they're not good enough to win a cup. Especially looking at how the decor looks right now. That decor is not pretty to look at. Even when Fox comes back, it's not a pretty decor to look at. But
Nope.
yeah, and also with the fact that I don't think he's gonna want to resign here. I know Anthony came in our comment section on one of our early streams that we were doing and saying that if Mikko Rantanen is looking to sign an extension somewhere, it's probably with a team with a lower or no state income tax like Florida or Texas. So yeah,
Or Vegas.
Yeah, or Vegas. Yeah. So like I was saying, if this was last year and the Rangers were, in the same place where they were last year and on pace to win the President's Trophy, by all means, go out. You make that trade for Mikko Rantanen. But even like last year, like they were in that position, and Drury was hesitant to go after a guy like Jake Gensel because there was no guarantee he was going to resign. So even with Rantanen, if they were in that position, would Drury, consider trading a guy like Gabe Perreault to go get Mikko Rantanen? I'm not 100% sure.
I think not right now in the position this team is in. If it was, say, for instance, last season, you're trying to push them over the top, that's a different story. Really, he's trying to reshape this team right now. He's trying to make them tougher. He's trying to make them harder to play against. Golden Spaten is saying this one. Would you guys actually include Lafreniere in that Paterka deal?
I said earlier that I would move Lafreniere if this was some bigger trade package that they were doing. So if they were getting like Lafreniere if they're getting Paterka and McLeod, or getting like Paterka and Byram, then yeah, I would easily do that. And maybe the Rangers move another piece out just to, balance the value a little bit more. But I would do it if that was the case. But I don't know if one for one's a little bit more of a question, just because of the fact where, if Lafreniere is closer to what he was last year, then he's better than Paterka. But at the same time, I think Paterka's, a safer bet with what he could be. Plus, you do save money there with Paterka.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting question, but I would prefer to move Lafreniere in that deal if they're getting Byram or McLeod also with Paterka.
Also, by the way, don't forget that every state would do income tax. Tennessee is one of those too. The Tennessee could actually go after that. But also, I mean, if he wants to go back to, say, the Utah area, they're going to be hungry to try to upgrade. All right. I know you guys are tired too. So how about we go another 15 minutes, guys?
Yeah, let's go. Maybe because I'm starting to get convinced that Elliot Freeman jumped the gun with this tweet. And
there was also that rumor. I don't know if you see Mark. I don't know if you saw Mark, but Vegas are interested in Brad Marchand.
Yeah, they gotta be. And you can't get a guy with that much experience, and go get him. And then you'd be like that meme of John Travolta in Pulp Fiction turning around, wondering what to do. That would be David Pastrnak. Nathan Gravity right now is saying that if a player like Stankoven or Bork are the best players going back, even if you love them, I'm struggling to see how this makes sense for the Canes.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I was saying before, where it's just should be enough teams in a bidding war to where, yeah, Carolina doesn't have necessarily a lot of leverage, but I feel like they should be able to get more than those guys.
By the way, guys, your quick thoughts on Carson Soucy.
Just to rerun those thoughts. I'm not a fan, considering the reports that he might be the guy they're gonna put with Adam Fox. Which, if that's the case, no, he does not belong on a first pair. If he's on a third pair, I could live with it a little bit, because every time he's thrived, it's in sheltered minutes. But at the same time, if he's on the third pair, that means they're moving Zach Jones, which also is upsetting. So I don't love it. I don't hate giving up a third round pick because it's just like whatever. It's a third round pick, but I don't love getting another guy where this team has so many left shot defensemen that are kind of just meh, and it's just getting redundant how every time they acquire defense, it's like, yeah, they could be on a third pair. Oh, good depth. Oh, they belong on a third pair. It would be nice if they started to use this ammo to go get, bona fide top 4 defensemen. But like on the surface, the trade isn't bad, especially if a buying team did this. Like if Winnipeg did this deal, you'd be like, all right, well, he's going to play on their third pair and it's whatever. But the Rangers are just in a spot where they need to start acquiring more top 4, like bona fide top 4 defensemen. So I don't love that from that regard.
I love this one from Pavel saying that Paterka and Shesterka on the same team would be great. They already got 2 Millers, so Sam can't mess that one up.
Yeah, for me, I agree with Evan. I didn't like the trade at all, and it wasn't like what Evan said. Like for the pick, listen, it's a third round pick. Like the odds of you like hitting on a third round pick are low anyway. But it's just for me, I think it's the wrong player and the wrong fit. But like again, like what Evan mentioned, like if you're bringing in Carson Soucy, who hasn't had a good year at all for Vancouver in terms of metrics, points, whatever, like, and you're gonna put him on your first pair along with Adam Fox, like. I don't see it. He's not a first pair defenseman at all. Like you just got rid of Ryan Lindgren and basically brought in Ryan Lindgren 2.0 on cheaper money. And even not much. I think Soucy's making 3.25, 3.75, somewhere around that. So and for me, like I thought it was just it's wrong fit because again, this team has a lot of depth defensemen, like Evan mentioned, and they need more top 4 kinds of defensemen, guys who can skate, guys who can break the puck out. Because as we saw last year against Florida, their biggest weakness was breaking out the puck and not being able to execute, proper breakouts against Florida, and not being able to handle the forecheck against Florida. And again, Carson Soucy's not that guy. Sure, Soucy's labeled as a defensive defenseman, but even his defensive metrics this year have been down severely. And I get it, he had a couple good years in Seattle with the Kraken, but ever since coming to Vancouver, he's been on the decline. And I think for me, I looked at a guy like, because we heard that the Rangers were looking for guys with term, and Soucy does have another year left on his contract. The guy that I wanted, and I was banging the drum for this guy because San Jose got him in the offseason this year as a cap dump from Detroit. And then Mike Greer was just able to reflip him again for a first-round pick. Was a guy in Jake Wallman. I thought Jake Wallman was a guy that, okay, maybe not an ideal top first pair defenseman, but you know what? I could be comfortable with him sliding next to Fox for like this year or next year while you're still in the retool process. And then maybe if you get a better left-handed shot defenseman, you can move Jake Wallman down to that second pair. And then, whoever you're bringing as your first pair left defenseman, that's the guy who you ideally pair with Fox. And I thought Wallman, again, like what I was talking about before, solid defensively, very good offensively, puts up points, and is able to break the puck out, and is a good skater. So yeah, for me, I don't love the trade, and I'm kind of confused on what Drury's doing right now.
I think it was bringing in a more veteran body. I am with you guys that I hope, because if anything that Jones has shown this last week is that Jones could carry the load. And it's funny because he went from literally 0 minutes to 21 out of nowhere. And I think it would be a huge mistake. You keep him as a bottom pairing sort of defenseman, so he gets around weaker matchups, you could say. But I also think I'd be hesitant for Chris Drury to spend the first round draft pick in 2026 when this team just still isn't convincing that it's going anywhere. I mean, we're all kind of operating on that they're going to do this from muscle memory from last year.
I don't know how much info and how many sources Jordan Schmaltz has, but he says Stankoven's going back the other way in this deal. So again, don't know how reliable he is in terms of having that info, but it would make sense given what we've said. So we'll see.
Well, again, you got to love what Dallas has done with this. I mean, What's Stan Bowman doing in Edmonton right now?
I mean, look, for Edmonton, I thought they made 2 solid pickups with Wallman today and then Trent Frederick the other day, but I mean, let me pull up their lineup, but
This is Edmonton. I'll do that real quick.
They still need help in their top 6 on the wing somewhere.
Yeah.
Just because, like, that the offseason moves they tried just did not work out the way they thought.
Here you go, guys. I got it. Like, you look at those. By the way, I kind of laughed about this. Snapper saying right here, Danny Nelson needs to wear number 29 so that you can save Islander fans some money. Yeah.
I mean, with the jersey number rule that Lou has, it's likely that it happens.
But yeah, I think that second line, Podkolzin's been a solid addition for them, but I think still you would like to add another second line winger there. The third line, decent, not great, and then the fourth line's all right. And then, I mean, defensively, I think their decor is solid, especially with them bringing in Jake Wallman. I know Matthias Ekholm right now is out with injury, but yeah, I think having Darnell Nurse, Ekholm, Kulak, Bouchard, Jake Wallman, either Ty Emberson or Troy Stetcher, whoever you want to place in that third pair. I think their defense is solid, but then again, you have the problem of Stuart Skinner, where he's shown that he could get hot at the right time, but I mean, if he's just going by what his regular season numbers are this year, then I don't know. It could be a quick exit for Edmonton this year, but again, with Connor McDavid in your lineup, you can never count out the Oilers because, I mean, both McDavid and Draisaitl, they could just turn it on and they just power the Oilers on.
Yeah, but I'd still hesitate on Stuart Skinner because let's be honest, if he didn't have 3 consecutive good games last year versus Dallas, they would have been long gone. All right, you guys ready for 5 hours of hockey talk tomorrow? Come back to either one of us, because we're going to both be doing specials, and then you guys are going to be jumping on with us, so that's even better. So
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Oh God, well, just the way last year went, with 5 minutes remaining, Tomas Hertl going to Vegas. I mean, I can almost see the Rantanen thing because again, everybody, it's not official, but just seeing that itching closer.
Well, they'll probably announce the return as the stream ends. That's just how this happens. I ended my stream and this report even dropped, so that's just the way this goes.
And when we ended our weekly show and then Capo Caco got traded right there, it's like, thanks guys. How about you think about us? Oliver Shillington going into the Islanders Ring of Honor. All right. Okay, guys, we're going to cut it off right here. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you subscribed and you like the video. And also, gentlemen, I'll see you in less than 12 hours. So
yeah. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.